Good evening. In compliance with Chapter 551, Open Meetings of the Texas Government Code as amended. I call to order a meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District for Monday, February 4, 2019 at 7:08 p.m. The board may meet in closed session to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and negotiated contract for a prospective gift or donation to the district, commercial or financial information that the board has received from a business prospect, or offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect, deployment or specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices, or a security audit, and or to consult with legal counsel regarding pending or contemplated litigation or a settlement offer on a matter which the school district's legal counsel determines should be confidential, including to receive updates regarding emergency preparedness review and including advice regarding constitutional and statutory claims related to facilities. In accordance with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, Sections 551.074, 072, 073, 087, 076, and 071, respectively. We will move to the approval of the agenda. Trustee Ellens, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
There is. I have a few corrections and amendments. Item 11.4 was removed by the administration. Item 13.3 was removed by administration. And item 12.1 has a correction to the bond date from 2017 to the 2013 bond.
Thank you.
With those amendments, I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second to approve the agenda, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Well, tonight, students from Casey Elementary School will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag. Principal.
Good evening, Board of Trustees.
Is it on? I think
don't
I'm
know.
press.
Okay, let's see. Is that better? Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Cruz. I'm Lina Villarreal, the proud principal of Casey Elementary School. We're a dual language school in South Austin. And a special hello to Jeronimo Rodriguez, who serves our district. Tonight we have our Casey parents that we're very proud of, and they're here with us, supporting us tonight. We have Mr. John Garcia, our librarian, who mentors our safety patrol. Our safety patrol, as you know, helps us every single day. They come to school at 7 o'clock in the morning to help us. So they will lead us today.
Buenos noches, mi nombre es Kyla Bowden. Good evening, my name is Kyla Bowden, and I am a 5th grader at Casey Elementary.
Good evening, I'm Diego Romero. I'm a 5th grade student in Casey Elementary. Buenas noches, soy Diego Romero, un estudiante de 5º grado en el colegio Casey Elementary.
We have our safety patrol with us today. We have Liliana Anchando, Violet Chambers, Andrea Fernandez, and Diego Hidalgo.
We also have Isabela Marin, Liliana Martinez, Grace Nelson, and Ariana Pina.
And now for the pledges. Please stand and remove all hats. Turn and face the American flag. Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Please turn and face the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. And now for a moment of silence.
Honra a la bandera de Texas. Te juro lealtad, Texas. Un estado bajo Dios, uno e indivisible.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for leading us in the pledge. Please come forward so we can meet you. And also, in addition, I just want to say thank you to all the parents who are here tonight. We really appreciate y'all bringing the students, and we know they probably have to go home to do their homework. So we appreciate them coming in.
Very well. Hola, ¿cómo vamos?
Thank you so much.
Your Spanish is great. And you're going to do also French, you said? You're thinking about it? All right, sounds good.
Oh, Diego Hidalgo o Vanessa? Vanessa, okay.
It's the last one.
Diego, gracias.
This way, this way. This way, honey, this way, honey, this way, so you don't trip over that wire. Pretty sure.
Thank you again to the parents. So tonight we have 3 recognitions. We'll begin our evening by recognizing Betachek Middle School on revalidation as an avid national demonstration campus.
So we have coming forward, we have Raul Moreno, who is our associate superintendent for middle school. And it's really nice to see, it's almost see the team back from Martin, right? I shouldn't say that, but formerly Martin, but now, at Betachek. But it is so great that the recognition around AVID, which is all around college career readiness, is still strong at Betachek Middle School. I'm just so proud specifically that focus has continued, and certainly under your leadership, amazing work. So with that, we have the recognitions. Make sure to use hashtag AISDProud when we use this for Twitter, and make sure that we're able to then let folks know about the great work going on at Betachek. Mr. Moreno?
Good evening, members of the board, President Rodriguez, Superintendent Cruz. Tonight, we are congratulating Betachek Middle School faculty and staff who were recognized in October on revalidation as an AVID National Demonstration School. I'd like to introduce our AVID District Director, Tara Thompson, Principal Michael Herbin, Assistant Principal Erica Ramirez, and Assistant Principal Maria Niesman. For the past 11 years, Betachek Middle School has offered AVID programming. For the past 3 years, they have been awarded the distinction of National Demonstration School. This distinction is up for renewal every 1 to 3 years, depending on the level of achievement of the campus. In October, Betachek Middle School was once again deemed by the AVID National Center as having earned the distinction of Avid National Demonstration School for another 3 years. This is the highest distinction possible. The distinction is based on instilling equity and closing the achievement and opportunity gaps through 4 domains: school-wide academic systems, collaborative leadership, rigorous instruction, and a college-ready culture. The AISD administration supports and congratulates Betachek faculty and staff for their outstanding continued work with their AVID program.
I should clarify, and I do congratulate you. The reason why I said Martin, because Mr. Herbin and Ms. Ramirez were both 6th grade science teachers at Martin. So, so that's what it brings memories. It's like the team is back together again when we went to administrative routes or SEL routes, but it's great to see the great work going on in Betachek.
Thank you. Hold on one second. On behalf of the Austin ISD Board of Trustees, I'm honored to acknowledge and congratulate Betachek Middle School for being recognized on their revalidation as an Avid National Demonstration Campus in October 2018. This is the second time Betachek has received this 3-year distinction. The Austin Independent School District congratulates your commitment and dedication, academic systems, collaborative leadership, rigorous instruction, and a college-ready culture. And I move that we recognize you for these accomplishments. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Please come up and so we can congratulate you. Yes.
Point of privilege, if you don't mind waiting just a moment, and I'll be glad to shake your hands. I would like to note that Dobie was a national demonstration site, and hopefully it will be again. I substituted for that AVID teacher up there when I started substituting in 2005 and substituted 7 years, and I was at Dobie quite a bit. And Mr. Herbin, I remember when I was a sub at Martin, subbing for your class or in your class, I was so impressed by you as a teacher. I'm really glad to know that you are now at Covington, that you've been there for a while. So, and I don't remember, Betachek, whatever. Betachek Bobcats. Go Porter Panther, excuse me, that's my old school. Okay, and I'm sorry I don't remember you, but I'm sure you were there from 2005 to 2012, and so anyway, I really appreciate the work that you've done. This is one of the best programs that we have for our students to make sure that they're college bound. I hope the entire audience looks up AVID. If you don't know AVID, look it up, check it out. It's a great program. We have a ton of partners that help with it, and I'm so proud that Betachek is getting this award. Thank you. You're welcome.
That's exactly right.
Thank you again. Next, we will recognize the Austin Council of PTAs, the ACPTA, and the Capital Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Dr. Cruz.
All right. Thank you, President Rodriguez, for this. I'm going to ask Michelle Wallace to come up. And almost I heard you say the Austin Council of PTAs, I almost heard you say the Awesome Council of PTAs. So I'm going with it, right? We're going to create a new hashtag because, I think Lynn's in agreement, right? Choni as well, right? So Kim exactly agrees that, this is a group that certainly want to recognize them for their work that they've done in the advocacy at the national level. We are always known that you're amazing, and you do this work on your own. It's on your own time. We actually meet monthly. I sometimes don't make all my meetings, but the meeting with ACPTA I do make because you're such great thought partners, and you certainly are there for your schools and your students. But what really just sets you apart is you're there for all of our kids in the Austin School District, and that means so much to me. And I see this board, we recognize that from your work and your leadership and advocacy in so many different ways. So I just want to just give you a special shout out on the behalf of the school system and the administration. With that, Michelle.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Cruz, President Rodriguez, and trustees. I am here tonight to ask for formal recognition of both the Austin Council of PTAs for their advocacy, leadership, and support, and the Capital Metropolitan Transportation Authority for their leadership and continued commitment to Austin ISD students through their now permanent Capital Metro Kids Ride Free program. We've got a crew from ACPTA and Cap Metro here tonight. If you'd join me at the podium, that'd be great. From ACPTA, we have Lynn Boswell, who serves as the president, Choni Hajibashi, Kim Ballou, Jane Rosso, and unable to be with us tonight, we hope everyone's feeling better soon, Sonia Khalil, advocacy chair. With Capital Metro, Randy Clark, the Capital Metro president and CEO, Wade Cooper, the Capital Metro board chair, Delia Garza, mayor pro tem and vice chair of the Cap Metro board, and her daughter. Thank you for being here. And council member Ann Kitchen, who's also serving as a Capital Metro board member. Now, trustees, it is my pleasure to request formal recognition from you all for ACPTA and Cap Metro.
Thank you. Trustee Singh, is there a motion to recognize these schools?
Yes, there is. On behalf of the Austin ISD Board of Trustees, it is my honor to recognize the awesome Austin Council of PTAs and the Capital Metropolitan Transportation Authority for their support and commitment to Austin ISD students. In June 2018, Capital Metro began a summer pilot program offering free fares for K-12 students in Central Texas and received overwhelmingly positive feedback from children and parents. Through robust advocacy efforts, ACPTA organized support from Austin ISD students, parents, and families, and shared personal stories around how the Capital Metro pilot program benefited them. They took action, spoke out, and wrote letters to decision makers at Cap Metro in advance of the agency's board vote to make the pilot initiative permanent. In December 2018, Capital Metro's Board of Directors approved a permanent fare structure change, granting free rides to K-12 students in Central Texas. Yay! Capital Metro heard from individual parents and PTA groups throughout the district in support of the pilot, feedback that factored heavily in the decision to make it permanent. In recognition of its efforts, in January 2019, the National PTA Legislative Committee selected the Austin Council of PTA as the winner of the 2019 Outstanding Local PTA Advocacy Award. This is a huge honor. The members of the committee will honor ACPTA at their 2019 legislative conference. This type of partnership is to be commended. It is with great pride that the Board of Trustees of Austin ISD recognizes the Austin Council of PTAs and Cap Metro for their advocacy, for their support, and leadership in making Capital Metro's Kids Ride Free pilot program permanent. Thank you. So moved.
Second.
So, having a motion and a second to approve the recognition, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously by all those on the dais. If you would please come forward so we can meet you and then take a picture with you all, and then with our Beta Check leaders as well after that. But thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
She was actually looking in the camera. You were great. Thanks for being here. Hey, Randy, as always, man. Thank you so much. This guy's dynamite. He's the right one. So it's all about Councilman. Thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to us. It's a great partnership. It is. So we're
Thank you for your email, by the way.
get all of them. They got to be in between the poles. All right, everybody in between the poles. All right. Everybody looking this way. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. That was it. Sorry, y'all.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Good seeing you.
Thanks, Randy.
Good seeing you.
Are you guys all the Belichick group? Okay. All right, everybody looking this way. Thank you. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Yeah. You want to just do it, or you want me to? Our last recognition is for Board Appreciation Month, Dr. Cruz.
Okay, as we're getting organized, it is truly a special treat to have our recognition, and I think it's so apropos that we're going to get to hear some beautiful music from our Belichick Mariachi. Our Bobcats will be presenting today, and it's in recognition of our board members. Our board members' volunteer work is pretty much 24/7. I know, because we're the ones that share a lot of information with them and have many discussions with them. They not only care about their districts, but they care about all of the over 80,000 students who walk through our classroom doors every single day. Board members, as you can see around the boardroom, there are many recognitions from different schools, different organizations that have posted this, most schools, to recognize you for your work, for your leadership, and to know, to let you all know that they notice the good work that goes on with this board and with this district. We're in a good place, and it doesn't just happen because it happens. It happens because there's strong leadership that's very focused on strategic outcome. And on top of everything, keeping the main thing. And that's the students that are right before us and all of the over 80,000 kids who walk through our classroom doors every single day between the ages of 3 up to 26. So with that, we want to make sure that this is you actually get a whole month. So a whole recognition time for our board members for their great work. So with that, we're going to enjoy some lovely music, which I'm really looking forward to.
I am Phil Swayze, Director of Mariachi, and I'm here to present to the board an appreciation from the Emerald of South Austin, Belichick Middle School. This is Mariachi del Sur.
Go Bobcats.
Oh!
tocar otra canción, por favor. Sí, ¿verdad? Y'all have grown. You look taller right from the last time I saw you.
One more.
Awesome.
Before you all come up, could you hold on one second? I know you want to shake our hands because that's why you're here, right? I pointed out when we had the McCallum String Quartet of ninth graders here how hard it is to play stringed instruments. Look how many you have right here, and these are middle school students. Not only that, most of them have memorized their music, and we've got two soloists who had to memorize, right? Y'all didn't do this with any words, did you? Soloists? No. You had to do this in front of we're not that intimidating, but I want to point out how difficult this is. And for any of you in the audience who don't appreciate this kind of music or classical music or any kind of music our students do, you need to learn about these musics, how important. It's difficult, right? You're their director, you know. Violin, guitar, what's that called, that big guitar? What's it called? Guitarro. Oh, that makes sense. And then we got trumpets back there, right? So it's a brass and string thing. And not only that, it's a whole lot of fun to listen to, right? Is it fun to play? Is it hard to play? Mm-hmm. Is it hard to play as an ensemble without somebody standing in front of you and directing? Mm-hmm. So this is difficult, people, in case y'all don't know that. And some of you are looking bored out there in the audience. I don't know. It's hard to tell, you know. Some of you are sleeping. I don't know. But Thank you so much, Bedichek Bobcats. Really appreciate your coming out. You've done a lot of good work, and now you can come and shake our hands. Watch out for those instruments. Don't break a neck.
Thank you all again. The board will now move to public comment. This is the time we dedicate ourselves to welcoming and encouraging public comments during our regular board meeting and to commit ourselves to active listening. Board members wish they could engage in a conversation with speakers on matters of concern and interest to the speaker that is not part of tonight's agenda, but in accordance with Section 551.042A of the Texas Government Code, board members may only make a statement of specific factual information or recite existing policy in response to an inquiry, propose that the subject be placed on a future agenda, or ask that the speaker visit with staff about the issue. After the completion of public comment, trustees may request from the superintendent additional information, clarification, or follow-up based upon comments provided by any one or more speakers. Please also know that there are additional ways to communicate with the board, including emailing the board directly at trustees@austinisd.org. In order to provide as many opportunities for input as possible within a limited time period at this meeting, each speaker will be allotted 2 minutes with a maximum of 30 speakers allowed. Speakers may sign up by phone or in person. No substitutions or yielding of time to others is permitted. As you come up to the microphone, there's a device that will light up as you move through your 2 minutes of allotted time. When the buzzer sounds, please make a final thought in one sentence. We ask that whether you come to give a complaint or praise, that you reference the staff member by position or by abbreviated last name. We ask that all audience members, whether speaking or not, please show respect for others at all times. Should you wish to offer additional written remarks that are not bound by time, please give them to the AISD officer on duty. Each board member and the superintendent will be provided with a copy. The Office of Translation Interpretation provides a Spanish language translator for audience members who need assistance when addressing trustees or need assistance understanding comments made to trustees during public comment. If you need this service during other portions of the meeting, please speak with the interpreter. Jennifer Williams, Spanish translator and interpreter, will repeat this message in Spanish.
La Oficina de Traducción e Interpretación proporciona un intérprete al español para las personas en la audiencia que necesiten ayuda al comunicarse con los miembros de la mesa directiva, o si necesitan ayuda para entender los comentarios que se están haciendo a los miembros de la mesa directiva durante el tiempo apartado para los comentarios públicos. Si necesita este servicio, por favor hablar con la intérprete Jennifer Williams, servidora.
Gracias, Jennifer. Yes, Trustee Taish.
I would like to reiterate for the public and for the viewing public that we are a governing body. We're elected by the people. We swear an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution, the Texas Constitution. We are probably the most accessible governing body that you will come across in the United States. So when President Rodriguez says there are other ways to reach us, that is very true. My email and my phone number are very public. It's annteich@austin.rr.com, and my phone number is 512-797-7724. And I pay for all of that because we don't get paid. We are trustees. We have been entrusted with well-being and education of students and the well-being of staff. And everybody needs to understand that. And we own everything in the district by state law, everything you're sitting in. But we are responsible for making sure that everything in the district is run in a fiduciarily sound manner, that our kids and our staff, number one, we support all people, no matter what. And this trustee does not do social media because it's hurtful. And I just want to point that out. So if you want to talk to me, you call me, you text me, or you email me, and I'll get together with you. But I don't put anything on social media except happy birthday and congratulations on your wedding anniversary. And I would strongly encourage everybody in the room and in the viewing audience to think about what happens when hurtful things are said on social media. I'm through preaching.
Thank you, Trustee. Suzanne Kearns is our first speaker, then Molly Clayton, and then Jasmine Patel.
Those kids are a hard act to follow. They were amazing. Good evening, Superintendent Cruz, President Rodriguez, and trustees. My name is Suzanne Kearns. I'm a parent of 2 AISD students, and I'm also here speaking on behalf of the over 1,100 members of the Informed Parents of Austin, a group dedicated to advocating for LGBTQ kids in the AISD. I've spoken at several board meetings about the many reasons I am personally supportive of comprehensive and science-based sex ed for AISD students. Tonight, I am thrilled to be able to share data from the recent district-wide Human Sexuality and Responsibility Survey that shows that 98% of the people who took the survey agree with me. I would like to use this data to also eliminate any confusion that may have been caused by the Austin Statesman's coverage of this issue with headlines like Austin parents are divided on sex ed changes and hundreds oppose Austin district sex ed changes. The fact is, of the 5,300 plus people who responded to the surveys, on average 98% plus supported the topics recommended by the National Sex Education Standards Guidelines. And if any of you consider 98% support divided, I would like to divide $1 million with you. As for the hundreds who oppose the sex ed changes, even they support most of the healthy relationships and personal safety topics, but instead focus negative comments on anti-LGBTQ sentiments. We ask that you vote yes and support the curriculum, which is beneficial for all students and supported by the vast majority of parents, especially when the 2% who opposed, which is about a half a student per class, can simply opt out of any or all the lessons that they object to. This curriculum is needed, and it's needed now. A baby is born to a teen mom in Travis County every 10 hours. 49% of LGBTQ students in Texas have been physically harassed or assaulted in the past year, and 1 out of 5 girls will be sexually abused before they turn 13. Our kids need this information, and we need you to honor the commitment of your strategic plan to focus on whole child, every child, physical, social, and emotional health and safety, and equity, diversity, and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Molly Clayton. I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancy. I'm also the proud parent of 2 future Austin ISD students, and in both of those capacities, I support the district's efforts to improve sexual health education. Data show that over the last decade, the teen birth rate in Travis County has declined by a remarkable 61%. However, Texas has more teen births than any other state in the nation. More than 30,000 Texas teens gave birth in 2016 alone, including 836 here in Travis County. And as Suzanne mentioned, that's approximately 1 every 10 hours. Data also show that 63% of Texas students become sexually active by their senior year. In order to avoid unintended pregnancies and sexually transmitted infections, young people need medically accurate information about human reproduction and contraception. National headlines over the past several years, as well as the results of the survey distributed to Austin ISD parents, faculty, and students, tell us we also have a tremendous need to teach youth about healthy relationships, social and emotional well-being, and how to ask for, give, and decline consent. Far too many teens are turning to unreliable, inaccurate, and harmful sources of information about these critical topics. We recognize and respect the fundamental role that parents and trusted adults play in teaching our children about these issues, but unfortunately, not all parents are fully prepared for this responsibility. In fact, I think if you asked an average Austin adult to label a diagram of the female reproductive system, most would label it BEVO. In all seriousness, our community has spoken, and the survey results show that an overwhelming majority of Austin ISD parents believe their children will benefit from comprehensive, age-appropriate sexual health education. We have an opportunity to empower our students with the information they need to stay healthy and to plan for their futures, and we should take it. I urge the board to support improvements to the health curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Jasmine Patel. If not, Maggie McGiffert, Joy Butler, and then Ramon Maldonado.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Maggie McGifford, and I'm a proud parent of 3 AISD children, 2 in 3rd grade, 1 in 7th grade. And I'm here as well to support the need for comprehensive, medically accurate, and progressive sex education curricula at AISD. Professionally, I've worked over 20 years to address relationship-based and sexual violence in our communities, providing direct services, working towards policy change, and now doing research. And the research really shows that comprehensive sex education can be one of the most impactful ways to prevent sexual and relationship violence. By giving our youth and the adults who work with these youth clear understanding of of sexuality and of healthy relationships and tools on how to address these issues when issues arise, we work towards preventing future sexual and relationship violence. Sexual violence is way too common and even for youth. One statistic given, 1 in 5 girls. Other studies show 1 in 9 girls, 1 in 53 boys will experience sexual violence before the age of 18. This is an issue that needs to be looked at in terms of sexuality, in terms of making sure that students that identify as LGBTQ are not harassed and do not experience physical harassment. And so I really stress that the sexual health needs need to be demystified and de-shamed, and it needs to be a regular part of our school curriculum. We need sex ed that's comprehensive, that reduces discrimination against those students who identify as LGBTQ, and that creates a culture of consent where students set personal boundaries and also where students are expected to respect boundaries and ask for consent always. And if students don't learn accurate information in school, they're going to learn inaccurate information and questionable information online. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joy Butler, an Austin citizen, parent, and longtime lay leader in the United Methodist Church. I hope you will vote yes on comprehensive and science-based sex education for the health and well-being of AISD school children. A group called Celebration from Georgetown has been renting AISD facilities for now over 5 months. Their public and online policy states that gay, bisexual, and transgender people are being, quote, sinful and offensive to God, end quote. You may have received feedback saying that supporting gay and trans kids is anti-Christian, but that's just bad theology. Ordained clergy and congregations from at least 40, more than 3 dozen, local Christian churches publicly proclaim the good news that lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people are wonderfully made to be out as their authentic and beautiful rainbow selves. So if you are choosing to discriminate against rainbow children, that is a personal choice that you are making. A choice similar to those made in years past to justify oppressing women and to uphold racial segregation in our schools. These were choices that otherwise good, church-going people made using the Bible as a weapon to harm marginalized people. You have a choice. Please support our most vulnerable population of God's children. Say no to policies that promote hate and harm. Say yes to healthy, inclusive environments for our students. And please spend all money gained from rentals from organizations with hateful policies, an estimated $300,000 a year at current rates, on programs that support our LGBTQIA plus rainbow kids, and share that good news with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ramon Maldonado, and then Lulu Bautista, Matthew Shade, then Naomi Wilson.
Good evening, Board. My name is Ramon Maldonado. I'm a PTA member of Zavala Elementary. And talk about diversity. And also communication with the schools, especially thinking that they're going to close a school. They're going to close. Last year, you said they're going to close 4 schools. And then it came out 5 schools. Now I'm hearing 16 schools. Well, we need to know exactly. We need the facts. Facts is that you got small class sizes in this school, and it's been facts that small class sizes you can teach children. Also, you can find out kids that have dyslexia problems. But then you got teachers that are going to be analyzing the children when they're not their job to analyze those children. You got a professional, you need a counselor to analyze those children, because I have a child that goes to school that has dyslexia. And it took a year, almost a year and a half, for him to get a test and stuff like that. And feel bad for the teachers, that they got to do double work, and then some of those teachers are still there right now. They go to 6 in the morning, and then our janitors are understaffed, and they have to work. If they have somebody sick, they don't get a replacement. They got to clean that school because now of the flu and stuff, they got to clean the whole school, and they're overworked. But what I'm saying is also just give us the facts. If you're going to close the school, just tell us you're going to close. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. Because, this is crazy. You're playing with people's lives. There's communities that stay in that school live about a block away on both sides, and they walk to school. Those families are hardworking people. They would like to be here, but they have to work hard to feed their families, to make ends meet. And then you're going to uproot them and send them somewhere else when it's just that community's been there for a long time. And they need somebody to speak for them. I was hoping that open your eyes and just help them. That's all I'm asking. Give us a fair shake. Thank you.
Thank you. Lulu Bautista. I think we need to go through the public comment first.
We have a Boy Scout troop here that's about to leave. They told me they were going to leave in an hour, and I said I was going to recognize them at 7:59. Gentlemen, can you stay longer?
Yes, we can stay a few minutes.
Okay, are you the troop leader?
Yes.
All right, then I'll be glad. It may be another 30, 40 minutes before we're finished.
I think it's about 10, 20, 30 minutes.
About 20 or 30 minutes. So if you're agreeable, then I think it's important that we recognize they're here for a civics lesson, I believe. Is that correct? Okay, I think that's really important since this is where participatory democracy takes place.
So Todd,
Okay.
I have a question.
Thank you.
So I have a question for our legal counsel. Are we allowed to take a pause on the public comment and do that? Do you all want to do that? Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think of where my agenda is at. Is that for Dr. Cruz? Are you recognizing? Oh, so go ahead.
So, gentlemen, would you please stand up? Represent your troop proudly. So, I'm a United Methodist, a member of First United Methodist Church, and this troop meets at my church, and it is the oldest chartered scout troop in the city of Austin. What year, gentlemen, were you chartered? Say it loudly and proudly, please. 1920. Thank you. So these gentlemen are here on a civics lesson, part of your requirements to become what? Eagle Scouts. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that very much. I'm not going to take up the audience's time again, but I did want to recognize you, and you have now the opportunity to go home and do homework or to sit and listen to the rest of public comment, which is, again, this is where the rubber meets the road as far as democracy is concerned. It's up to you, and it's up to your troop leaders. Thank you for that moment of personal privilege, President Rodriguez.
Thank you all, and thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you again. Next is Lulu Bautista, and then Matthew Shade, and then Naomi Wilson. Lulu.
Superintendent Cruz and Board of Trustees. My name is Lulu Bautista, and I'm the parent of an AISD student here to speak in support of comprehensive sex education. I recently learned that presenting abstinence as the preferred choice of behavior among unmarried persons of school age and devoting more attention to abstinence than any other behavior is a state of Texas legal requirement. As it applies to AISD's planned update to the sex ed curriculum, I would like to challenge you to dig deep when it comes to this requirement. Ask the following questions. In what ways does your program ensure that students are not shamed or made to feel inferior if abstinence from all sexual behavior ends up not being a choice they can make? Some children have previously or are concurrently experiencing sexual abuse away from school and then sitting in a classroom listening to a teacher repeatedly focus on the idea that sexual experiences after marriage are the best choice that one can make. Trauma-informed practice needs to be just as highly prioritized as abstinence is. In what ways does your program acknowledge and support students for whom marriage might not be such a straightforward path, particularly LGBTQ students, or students for whom marriage is not an immediate priority? Marriage equality is legal, but some students who are well within their rights to explore their sexuality are still navigating trust and support from their families and may not have marriage immediately within reach. Students are taking their own individual paths to adulthood, and while some might dream of getting married soon after high school, they should not feel pressured to do so in order to explore sexual behavior in a safe and healthy way. Students who prioritize school and career before marriage may not marry until a decade after leaving high school. None of these students should be ostracized by this legal requirement of focus on abstinence until marriage. What percentage of your curriculum is devoted to abstinence? The EHA language says more attention must be devoted to abstinence. Does your curriculum focus on abstinence 80% of the time? 50.001% of the time? Abstinence is a great choice, but how much valuable knowledge about healthy and safe sexuality are students missing out on? At this point, 80% of my public comment has been focused on abstinence. Don't you wonder what else I could have shared with you? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening. I'm Matthew Shedd with Informed Parents of Austin. So this past weekend, I was at a dinner party, and the topic came up, who was left and right-handed. And out of the 12 of us, 2 people raised their left hand and said, oh, I'm left-handed. And I said, well, what is that like? I've been right-handed my whole life. What's it like to walk in your shoes? And one gentleman said, well, it got better. And I said, okay, tell me about that. He said, well, I started out going to Catholic school, and when I was writing, I would write with my left hand, but then the nuns were telling me there was a demon in my hand and whacking me with a ruler and telling me I had to be like everybody else and write with my right hand. And then I went to public school, and it was no big deal that like they identified as I wrote with my left hand. They made adjustments, and we went on as normal. So he said, the way he put it was like, yes, I was the other, but not made to feel so much other that I was not part of the pack. And I thought, yes, this is what I've been talking about our comprehensive sex ed reform, that the culture has changed about handedness. And I was thinking about like what's going on like in our more contemporary issues, and like autism, like we've ID'd what it is, we've raised awareness about it. It's unclear about the nature versus nurture debate, but that's not the issue anymore. It's how do we accommodate our students? Also with peanut allergies, like it's been ID'd, we're more aware, so there's more people who understand they have a peanut allergy. We don't care if you were born that way or something that came about, but it's more how do we make accommodations in our schools for people with a peanut allergy? How does the majority make a slight accommodation that affects the quality of life in a big way for the minority? So when it comes to our sex education, we need to include simple standards like identifying diverse family structures, and at higher levels, expanding the definition of sexual orientation to include homosexuality. Identify, allow for awareness, and make slight accommodations with no moral judgment, just the facts. So let's just stop the negativity around discussing sexuality, and let's produce healthy, considerate, informed students in our district, and hopefully we can turn some cases of depression and suicide into happy and healthy, loving young adults. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Next is Naomi Wilson, Emily Sawyer, and then Candace Ayler.
Allowing groups like Celebration Church to preach their hateful, ignorant, offensive, and abusive stigmas against our community is dangerous. Allowing these groups to normalize dehumanizing us leads to a lack of family acceptance, intimate partner abuse, sexual violence, and increased rates of suicidality, and a denial of opportunities for our community. The hateful and ignorant beliefs of groups like Celebration have a direct link to how we get to brutal and fatal attacks like the one that happened right here in Austin to an innocent young couple downtown for just holding their hands. Celebration refuses to see that their views are planting seeds of hate within our community, and they refuse to change. So that is why we are here now, because they refuse to take responsibility for their toxic damage that they are having on our students and our community. Austin District, since Celebration won't change, I need you to change. Austin District, I'm surprised that as a school district, you have taken this long to address this direct ignorance that you are allowing to come straight from your properties. You guys should be leaders. You guys should be the ones to fight for change that'll make us all safer in our communities and around the world. Austin District, properties are supposed to be safe, inclusive spaces for children, not hate groups like Celebration. Celebration tells our students they cannot be leaders. The way that they are born offends God. It tells young women not to stand up and fight back against their oppressors. This group has told me to my face that the children that have killed themselves were not strong enough to endure God's gift of life. And that's pretty disgusting. This group is anti-children. It doesn't belong in our school. Why are these groups, why are we allowing these groups to feel more comfortable in our schools than our children are? Groups like this do not belong in our schools. Groups like this do not belong in our community, and I believe most of Austin would agree with me. The longer they are here, the more comfortable they feel, and the less that our children do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent and Trustees. My name is Emily Sawyer. My children attend Blanton Elementary and Martin Middle Schools. I'm a member of the Eastside Memorial Campus Architectural Team and a recent appointee to the Fab Pack, as well as having followed the BSTF in its work over the last few months. Given the current realities in our city and district, school consolidations have become necessary and I believe inevitable. It is not enough, however, to simply be fair-minded and logical in choosing and applying criteria for school consolidations. We must choose to be radical in redressing past racist wrongs perpetrated against those in the education system whom we historically did not see fit to educate. And these wrongs continue to this day, often in the same ways, but also in new ways, in approaches to education that actually support the persistence of the gaps they are purportedly designed to close, and in our unwillingness to admit dehumanization of certain students and communities inherent in our current education system. When we use under-enrollment and underperformance as the main criteria for consolidation, we punish schools and communities for failing when we set them up to fail. Remember, outcomes such as these do not happen in a vacuum. They happen within a system and an historical context. We can do better. If our public education system is failing poor Black children and children of color, then it is simply failing. I ask the superintendent and trustees to be bold and undeterred by discomfort as you consider what equity would really mean in this district. As you discuss criteria for consolidations and any new enrollment zone strategies, please be transparent and create guidelines that are usable so we don't end up in the same boat that we are in with our renaming process. Please also look at academics and the ways that programs and testing also serve to maintain the status quo and a deficit view of certain students. We need strategic, brave leadership, not just feel-good talking points and kumbaya moments. We need leaders who will stand up to protect our teachers and our students against anyone who would abuse or dehumanize them, whether personally or systemically, and who will make difficult choices that we in this community can point to and say, see, this is what we stand for. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Candace Ayler. And then afterwards, Vincent Tovar, and then Reedy Spigner.
I find it fascinating that Dr. Cruz gets up and leaves every time I come up to speak. My name is Candace Ayler, and I am the pastor and minister of justice of the Anti-Fascism Non-Christian Church. I'm also a former Austin ISD parent. I am a nurse in this community, a practicing nurse. I am a leader in my community of my chosen family, the LGBTQIA community. And I am a former member of the District Advisory Council to Austin ISD. I joined the District Advisory Council several years ago, and I really wanted to be able to affect change in this district. So I'm familiar with the barriers that you experience in trying to make very difficult decisions. I remember the lengthy presentations that we had on the financial stresses that are on this district. And I know that you can't necessarily take on a huge legal battle, especially when the Attorney General tells you that you have to continue to contract with Celebration Church. But what you can do is send clear messages. So if the district is getting approximately $6,000 a week, which would translate to $300,000 a year, what are you spending the money on? The superintendent that got up and walked out yet again from my presentation here today has told the community that that money would be spent on the students of the district that identify as LGBTQIA, that it would be spent on programs for them in their schools, that it would be spent on training for the staff and for the faculty of the schools in this district. And the transgender students of this district told you that they need that. They told you they don't feel safe. They told you that that their learning is hindered, is impeded. So I employ you to be transparent, to tell us publicly, not in a conversation, in an email, or in a private phone conversation or private meeting, but tell the people of this community publicly, what are you spending that money on? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vincent Tovar. Good evening, school board trustees. I'm here tonight to urge you to direct Dr. Cruz to lead this district in a way that's strategic and truly committed to being demonstrative of providing equitable academic support, equitable opportunities and outcomes for our staff and students. We need champions. We need champions. And you as a school board and even AISD admin and staff have to constantly ask yourselves, am I doing what's best for all kids, or am I doing what's best for my career? And that's a tough question. If you are a board member who doesn't or hasn't sent your kid to a Title I school with 90+% kids on free and reduced lunch, you really have to grapple with how can you imagine like what it would be like to be a Go Valley mom, right, or a Martin mom like Emily, and make, how would that look like for you to advocate to the school board? What would that look like for you? So I want you to be champions. I want to support you being a champion with advice to say, be on the ground, reach out to us, reach out to the community, and really get our feedback so that you can understand what it means. Those parents that we see at pickup, dropped off times that we have conversations with. My daughter goes to Fulmore, but I know Martin needs my help, and I continue to support Martin so much that I go to all these meetings and I see that parents are utterly confused or incredibly against the Transformation Zone grant with its reformer, pro-charter strings attached. But that has to come from presence on the ground. I know you can't be everywhere at once, but we're here to support you to be champions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Reedy Spigner, and then Jim Harrington, and then Andy Sams. I think Reedy's not here.
Reedy has car trouble, so
we'll call their names back at the end. See
Okay.
if they're here.
So, good evening. I'm here to talk about top 5. Top 5 being the top 5 kids of Valverde Elementary School who want to go to the magnet schools as a way of assuring diversity. As some of you already know, we have 75 reading buddies on the ground in East Austin reading at 2 schools. For 150 kids, we do teacher appreciation. So we have a real sense of what just happened with respect to the magnet schools in the application process. And what happens is, just as the gentleman before me talked about, Title I parents, Title I on the east side is different than the rest of Austin. You can't rely upon internet applications in the way that West Austin might. It has to be on the ground, talking to people, talking to parents, meeting the parents. It's a different approach, and it does not happen. It does not happen. And if it's not going to happen, and if you're not going to commit the resources to do it that way, then the top 5 program, like the top 10% that we use for the universities here in Texas, is the way to do it, to assure that diversity, to assure that these kids from all kinds of backgrounds in East Austin actually get into the magnet schools. That's what I want to put on the table tonight as something for you all to look at to improve the diversity, and I mean diversity all across the board for the magnet schools, because the magnet schools are the key for these kids. These are the key. My kids were in magnet school. I really understand this. And that's what I want to put there for you all to look at. If you're going to look at a way that may really help change the diversity of the magnet schools, this may be the key. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy Sams, and then Daniel Dar, and then Manuel Munoz.
Hi, good evening. I'm a parent in the district. Good evening, Dr. Cruz and trustees. The subject before you that I have to speak about is generally pretty benign. I've noticed that I've been trying to, and I do want to say I echo and agree with all of the speakers tonight. I think these are wonderful topics, and I hope that we continue these conversations. But I came with something very benign. I've been attempting to navigate the AISD website, and I've noticed it's very difficult to navigate. So I have a little photocopy. I Googled AISD customer service and contact AISD, and over 50% of the links are broken. So, of course, there are different ways of reaching different folks, but I think it's really important that we take a look at that and help improve communication and allow people to be able to connect with us and not frustrate them as they attempt to connect with our district. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Cruz and Board of Trustees. My name is Dan Dower. I'm a teacher, and I'm a member of an organization called Educators in Solidarity. Educators in Solidarity is an organization of Austin area educators working to build our anti-racist capacity through activism, advocacy, and outreach. We know the board is currently weighing options regarding school closures and consolidations, and we urge the board to review the Budget Stabilization Task Force's recommendations and safeguards before making any decisions. Specifically, we believe the Budget Stabilization Task Force has reached some pretty powerful recommendations, specifically that any closures or consolidations should be done through the lens of equity. If we close under-enrolled, underperformed schools and say we're done with it, we're just punishing communities for mistakes that aren't theirs. We also know that many schools serve as valuable community assets. If a community is going to lose a school, the community should have a say in what assets will replace it. We urge the school board to establish a clear set of goals for any closures or consolidations that promote equity and increase integration across the district. These goals should acknowledge the pain that closures and consolidations might inflict on communities in Austin and identify strategies to meaningfully involve impacted communities in the process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Manuel Munoz, then Steve Swanson, and then Jamie Haynes.
How's everyone doing today? My name is Manuel Munoz. I'm a 2009 graduate of the Liberal Arts and Science Academy High School, and I'm standing here with a couple of former Lanier students. We all lived and grew up in the Rumberg area, and I didn't plan anything tonight, but we really just wanted to have a casual conversation regarding the renaming of Lanier. I think a few days ago, we all saw at the state capitol that our Republican and very conservative state government took down a plaque honoring the children of the Confederacy. Now, what does it say when liberal, progressive Austin is stalling on renaming all Confederate-named schools in our school district? Now, you all were given the recommendations from both Lanier and Reagan campuses. Reagan didn't follow the rules as far as nominations, name nominations were concerned, and Lanier only submitted one recommendation that followed by the rules, and that was to rename the school after Diane Castañeda. But Ms. Diane Castañeda did not go to Lanier High School. Juan Navarro did. And the school was presented with a petition with over 900 signatures. And I know you guys aren't taking the petition according to the rules that you guys wrote online, but that in itself should show you guys that there's support coming from the entire Latino community in North Austin that wants to see you guys move forward with renaming the school after one of its graduates, after Sergeant Juan Navarro, who graduated from Lanier, was an athlete at the campus, a PALS mentor, and he wanted to come back and be a nurse, work as a medic in the community, but he couldn't because in 2012 he passed away. One of only two casualties overseas in actual duty. And the other one is actually an Austin high school graduate who I believe passed away last year. So we're asking you guys, please consider the name Sergeant Juan Navarro, the alumni of Lanier High School, 2007 alumni. Please honor him by renaming the institution after him. Because right now, we only have one Latino named high school, and it's an alternative high school at that. Not even a normal campus. And while we have nothing against the alternative campus, you know, we Latinos are constantly ignored in the history books, and this is proof of it right here. So this is a chance for you guys to change things up. So, thank you.
Thank you. Steve, after you is Jamie Haynes, and then Ken and Seraphis.
Good evening, Steve Swanson. I'm here as a grandparent, a retired business executive, and a 20-year volunteer in education, including East Austin, and I'm here to express my gratitude for the Budget Stabilization Task Force and their report. We need to continue sharing it with the public and with the legislature. The report is historical and is validated by experience, research, the Eastside Memorial High School story, the Mendez Middle School story now, school closures, and last year, when the board members themselves publicly asked the administration what resources are needed for students to learn, read, and do math. Good questions. The report reflects upon and communicates the importance of being courageous, bold. We have a silver lining. We need to truly evaluate where AISD puts its dollars. AISD must act to ensure all programs are accountable and strategically aligned. And past decisions have had a disproportionately negative impact on certain parts of the district, namely East Austin. I think Austin has a chance to rise above the chaos of politics and to actually tell itself it can take care of its own kids and not wait for the state to tell us how to do it, or some other institution or private entity coming in. That report, when I first read it and was handed to me a month ago or so, I went, wow. If this had been around 20 years ago, I wouldn't know you guys. It's profound, it's historical, and we need to share it. There may be problems with some of it. Part of you have problems with it. It speaks to a bigger picture in a way that we need to listen to. And thank you, and I thank the task force.
Thank you. Jamie Haynes, Ken, and then after Ken is Carol Ayala, and then last is Jared Breckenridge. Ken.
Good evening. I've been called Kent, and I've been called Kevin, but tonight's the first night I've been called Karen. And I can do that.
I need new
That's
glasses.
Okay. Hi, my name's Ken Zarefis. I'm president of Education Austin and a teacher. I taught at Burnett Middle School for 12 years. I'm here to speak tonight about the budget and the process that we look at through the numbers. And what we hear, and as we go out to the district and talk to people in the district, we hear overwhelmingly, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. We're going bankrupt, we're going to be insolvent. They've got no money to pay us. We can't get any money. I'm here tonight to say we got to change the narrative. We've got to stop operating in a lot of capacity from a deficit perspective. We've got to stop saying what we don't have. We've got to stop talking about what kids don't have, what their families don't have, and we've got to stop talking about the don't haves. Because we've got to start talking about what our kids have, what our families have, and what we have as a district. Over the last 7 years, we've been able to provide and work with the district for 15% in pay raises over the last 7 years when we've been told repeatedly we have no money. We've been able to do the things that LA Unified School District went out and struck on, and we've fought hard to have those things right here in this district, building around community schools. There are things that are positive. We must stop talking about what we don't have and start building on our strengths. I want to challenge everybody on this board, everybody in this administration, to start telling our neighborhoods and our communities how great we are. Demonstrate it. Stop telling them how bad we are. Let's stop telling them how little we have. Let's start telling them what we have. I am proud of this district. I'm a teacher. I'm a union leader. I have children in this district. I believe in this district. Sometimes I think more than some of the people in this administration believe in this district. We are here to stand with you. Start standing up for our kids, our families, and our communities. We have more than what you could ever imagine. Let's start owning it and showing everybody what it is.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carol Ayala, and I'm a former teacher of this district. I resigned after being trained under the Welcoming Schools Teacher Program at Odom Elementary. This program was created by the Human Rights Campaign, the largest LGBT political lobby. It is designed to normalize LGBT lifestyles and targets elementary school children. I co-founded Concerned Parents of Austin, now Texas, because of the district's decision to bring in welcoming schools without parental notification. Now that AISD is overhauling its sex ed program, the SHAC has already decided to follow the national sex ed and SICA standards written by abortion and LGBT groups such as Planned Parenthood and Advocates for Youth, whose goal is to implement graphic sex ed and change social norms through indoctrinating students in public schools. After pushback from parents, the Student Health Advisory Council, or SHAC, was redone. To date, it still does not represent the 40,000 Hispanics, 20,000 whites, or 6,000 African Americans and others. You will not see nor hear diversity of thought there either. Concerning the parent survey, how difficult is it to send surveys home through classroom folders to be returned, thereby obtaining a true picture of the entire AISD school population? Our hopes as concerned parents were that the district would truly embrace diversity under the banner of All Are Welcome and truly be representative of all the student population. Until valid input is gathered, we are urging all parents to opt out of all sex ed offered by this school district. Visit our website to obtain opt-out forms at concernedparentsoftexas.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Jared Brackenridge.
Good evening, Dr. Paul Cruz and the entire Austin ISD Board of Trustees. My name is Mr. Jared D. Brackenridge, and I, as many of you may know or may not know, am a former AISD student. Also, I currently attend Houston-Tillotson University, which is here in Austin, the oldest institution of higher learning. Furthermore, I am a member of the NAACP at HT. That's just to give you guys a little bit of background where I'm coming from with this statement. So, tonight, my statement is going to be about the renaming of the Confederate Tide schools in AISD. I'm speaking on behalf of many of the parents, the students that oftentimes feel as if their voices are not heard. So please take it as so. So I first want to state that I strongly believe that any individual that fought for the war, supporting the institution of slavery, or even supported such thing, should not be honored by having a school named after them. Contrary to my belief, many people think that the cost of doing so, of renaming these schools, is far greater than the image that we're presenting to our students, if y'all are following me. I say that we have to take the cost out of the equation. It's not about the cost. As you can see here, it's about ethics. Our students, they need to be told and shown that you have to live by being equitable and you know, being the role model that you should be in society. But if they go to a school and they're unaware that they're going to a school that is named after such individual that you know, wanted oppression to occur, then we're setting the wrong example for them. So I'm asking each one of you all, as our leaders, to lead by example and to rename all Confederate Tide schools in Austin Independent School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. We are done with the list, but I'm going to call back the names of those folks that were not here at the time I called their names. The first one is Jasmine Patel. Next one is Reedy Spigner. And the last one is Jamie Haynes. So if none of those are there, Trustee Teisch.
Once again, I appreciate the public coming out because this is one of the few places where you can actually come up to your elected officials. We're not as far away from you as the City Council or as the White House or that kind of thing. So thank you for being here. A few comments. First of all, it disturbs me greatly that we have to abide by a laws or set of laws, regulations, where we have to rent to certain people who discriminate. And I think that if Attorney General Paxton would like to talk to me, because I've been the most vocal, I am inviting him to come and talk to me. I will not go to him. He can come to me. And we can discuss the issues that he has and the support that he has given to one particular faith community over other faith communities, I might add. So, Attorney General Paxton, if you're watching, my phone number is 512-797-7724. My email address is annteich@austin.rr.com. I would welcome sitting down and having coffee with you, or lunch, or breakfast, or supper. By the way, Naomi Wilson, would you stand up again? You gave some very disturbing testimony about a member of the church in question who said something to you that was extremely disturbing to me about the deaths of some LGBTQ. Is that correct? I think that's extremely disturbing for a member of that faith community to be talking to you like that. And that gives me great pause. I don't know about the rest of my trustees. I'm just speaking for myself. Great pause in accepting money from an institution that would have a member that would say something like that to you. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your bravery in what you've been doing. Appreciate it. Okay, number 2, thank you to all that community, by the way. Number 2, Mr. Maldonado, I agree with you. I think that you need to have all of our schools that are, under-enrolled, et cetera, we need to be more upfront, transparent if you want to. We're faced with certain regulations and things and barriers to that, but I think we need to start the conversation. I think the trustees need to start that conversation. They need to react. We have not reacted publicly to the Budget Stabilization Task Force, which is BSTF, for those of you who don't know all of our jargon and our acronyms. We haven't publicly reacted to that, and certain news outlets have just gone blue sky with all kinds of interesting conclusions that we haven't even talked about yet. It's just amazing. I didn't realize that my mind was being read. Did y'all know that your mind was being read by the news outlets? I just saying, it's interesting. Must be that Vulcan mind meld stuff that was going on during that television series that we all remember so well. So anyway, this board needs to discuss those recommendations, and this board member, and I know the rest of these board members, put our core job first, and that is to make sure that our students are taught and that our students are taught to the best of all of our resources, and that our staff is supported so that they can teach them. So, Mr. Maldonado, if you're still here, I would appreciate our staff reaching out to you and trying to get an idea. You mentioned several concerns, including evaluating, I believe, your child with dyslexia. Number 3, I would like to have the board, Dr. Cruz, I'd like the board to have an update on the TUP process. I know that our FabPAC's been working on that. By the way, FabPAC meetings are public meetings. Please go to them and hear what they are saying from the horse's mouth, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, instead of reading about it in the news or speculating about it yourself or whatever, using social media to speculate about it, because nothing beats going right up there and talking to those people or listening to them. It's called a field trip in educational jargon. Transformation zone. Oh, my goodness gracious. We all know, well, most of us know what that means. It's the continued efforts of the state to privatize public education. Let's just be clear. So I am extremely hesitant about taking that money. That's just me, okay? The AISD website, I too, Mr. Sams, where are you? You still here? I too have experienced the frustration that you have at all the broken links, and I brought it through the attention of Dr. Cruz and to Jacob Reach, who is his chief of staff, and I'm sure they're working on it. Kevin Schwartz, our IT person, I'm sure they're working on it, but I don't know who got that contract, but somebody messed up somewhere, and it's extremely off-putting to go to a website that doesn't give you the information that you need when you search it, and you search it, and you search it over and over again, and every link is broken. that I've encountered. That's just me, okay? All right. By the way, I do agree with one comment, I don't remember who said it, that the communities around the schools that might possibly be consolidated, and there is no list, they should be consulted as to what will happen to that property, because those are sacred properties in many, many ways. So I know, I have confidence in our community engagement department that that department will ensure when we get to that point, and the board hasn't even talked about it yet. So y'all just cool your jets, including our esteemed media. Okay. The last comment that I have about Mr. Breckenridge's talk, I'm a graduate of Southwestern University, and we're older than HT. We're the oldest liberal arts university in the state of Texas.
Not in Austin, though.
But we are the oldest in the state of Texas. I will concede Austin. But it was United Methodist who started Southwestern University, and it was United Methodist who started Houston-Tillotson.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir. Go HT. Go Pirates. That's SU. Just saying. I attended there from 1970, 1974, but, you know, that's older than dirt now. Okay. By the way, I will be happy to acknowledge and think about changing Sidney Lanier if the following schools and the following city will consider changing their names. Austin High School, the city of Austin, because it was Stephen F. Austin who brought slavery into Tejas. Mirabeau Lamar Middle School. Mirabeau Lamar, Republic of Texas, was one of the most worst racists I have come across in a long time. And I've been alive 66 years. And then finally, my favorite, Bowie. James Bowie, slave trader, worked with the pirate Lafitte off the coast of Texas to buy and sell human bodies and bring them into Texas. I want those names changed also. Mr. Breckenridge, you notice they have not been brought up for consideration at all. And I think they need to be included with all of those names, because some of them brought slaves into Texas to begin with. And that's what the war between the states, whatever you want to call it, was fought over. Correct, sir? Correct. Oh, yeah. We wouldn't have had that war had we not had slavery, and we would not have had slavery had we not had slaves, et cetera, et cetera. So when all those names are brought forward, including the city of Austin, then I'm with you 100%. I am in solidarity with you. But those names have not been brought up. I consider that hypocritical. Okay? And by the way, the cost is not important to me, or to you, is it? So everything, if we rename the city of Austin, whatever it takes, if we rename Lamar Middle School, if we rename James Bowie High School, if we rename Stephen F. Austin High School, whatever it takes, let's spend that money, because it's certainly worth it to make our point.
What they do with the city of Austin, but we can control what we do with Austin ISD.
Oh, no, we can influence that.
So Trustee Ty-
We're the third highest. We're the third highest employer in this state, in this city.
Trustee
We can
Tyson.
influence them, okay? And we're not supposed to go back and forth. I know that.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Because-
clarify that we are allowed to ask questions or clarification regarding the public comment.
And
the
our
superintendent.
board members routinely violate that, and they have violated since I've been on the board since 2012. Just want to put that out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other trustees' questions or clarifications regarding the public comments?
Yes, I do have one
Trustee
clarifying
Singh?
question. I'm wondering if it would be possible to share what percentage of our entire rental income comes from church rentals. I know that we can't handpick which churches we want to rent to and which ones we can't. It's all or nothing. So I'm sure we have that information, and maybe it's been given to trustees prior to my sitting here. And have we done any, I'd be curious to know as well, if we have done any sort of cost-benefit analysis to see if it's really, the extent to which it's worth it, in quotation marks, to rent to churches. So having that data would certainly help. And I guess the last thing is knowing if you and your staff have considered reissuing a statement that clarifies Austin ISD's stance on LGBTQ families and how those, and also how the funds for church rentals are being used. Thank you.
Trustees, any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, trustees. Board will now begin the public hearing at which the public will have the opportunity to comment on the 2018 Annual Texas Academic Performance Report, also known as a TAPER. Board members wish they could engage in a conversation with speakers on matters of concern and interest to the speaker that is not part of tonight's agenda, but in accordance with Section 551.042A of the Texas Government Code, board members may only make a statement of specific factual information or recite existing policy in response to an inquiry, propose that the subject be placed on a future agenda, or ask that the speaker visit with staff about the issue. Speakers have had the opportunity to sign up for the public hearing either by phone or in person. In order to provide as many opportunities for input as possible within a limited time period of this meeting, each speaker will be allotted 2 minutes. Speakers may sign up by phone or in person. No substitutions or yielding of time to others is permitted. As you come to the microphone, there's a device that will light up as you move through your 2 minutes of allotted time. When the buzzer sounds, please make a final thought in 1 sentence. And should you wish to offer additional written remarks that are not bound by time, please give them to the ISD officer on duty. Each board member and the superintendent will be provided with a copy. Are there any speakers? There are no speakers. So, okay, then we'll move on to... So, Todd, do I just conclude the public hearing? Okay, so there are no speakers at the public hearing. So this concludes the public hearing. Trustees, do you have any questions or clarifications regarding the public hearing? Okay, if not, thank you very much, and we will now move to the consent agenda. Please note that administration, I think as Amber had mentioned, has pulled consent item, agenda item 11.4, the contract for gasoline, and 13.3, the proposed termination of professional employees during a term contract. Please also note that consent agenda items 12.9, 12.10, and 12.11 have been pulled for a separate vote. Are there any consent items that trustees would like to pull for a separate vote? Trustee Matthias.
I'm happy to ask that 9.1 be pulled for conversation and a separate vote.
Todd?
I believe Secretary Ellens also said 12.1 had been pulled in the motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, 12.1 is also pulled.
I think it just had a correction.
Yeah, 12.1 just had a correction. It was an amendment.
My mistake.
Yeah, that's correct. 12.1 is a correction, not a point. So any other items that we need to pull?
Did we get a second?
We did not.
No. Oh, do we need to specify why?
Certainly happy to. I have a question about the lack of a day honoring Latino heroes in a majority Latino district. I'm sure that's been a conversation of board officers and administration in the past, but would happily welcome an explanation before voting against the calendar that does not include that.
Okay, so that's been pulled. So is there a second to that, of pulling that item?
Second.
Okay, Letitia second. So Secretary Ellens, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes. Okay, we have several items pulled, and I just want to reiterate items 12.9, 12.10, 12.11 have been moved to. They're still in consent, but they're under separate vote. So the proposal, the motion right now is to approve items 10.1 through 11.3, 12.1 as amended through 12.8, 13.1 and 13.2, 13.4 through 13.6.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Cindy Anderson seconds. Is there a discussion on these consent items? Having a motion and a second, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, the motion passes. The motion passes unanimously. Now for the items that were pulled in the agenda items, and that would be, let's see, 12.9.
9.1.
9.1, sorry, 9.1, 12.9, 12.10, and 12.11.
Oh, wait, are you going to the separate vote time, or are we going to do the ones?
So I'm going for the items that were pulled from the consent agenda for a
Okay.
separate vote.
Okay.
So, Amber, so do I have a motion to consent agenda item? Amber, do you want to make a motion for?
Sure. So I would propose a motion that we, how is it written here? Hold on. That the trustees approve calendar B as the 2019-2020 instructional calendar. That's item 9.1.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Tice seconds. Is there a discussion, Trustee Matthias?
So the reason that I pulled this was simply for an update. I know that in the past I've submitted a request of officers to talk about it, so maybe it's as simple as the officers addressing how it is that we're celebrating Cesar Chavez and or Dolores Huerta and or other Latino heroes in a district, how tremendous we esteem equity and diversity and inclusion as core values. We know that in this week in which we are just celebrating Martin Luther King Jr., tremendous models we have for the African American students of our community. I would like to think that we've taken steps as a board to address the lack of models for our students. So I'll defer to board officers and or administration for how it is that we might honor him this year and going forward.
I can just give you an update from the ops meeting, and then officers, if you'd help me, because I'm trying to remember, I'm doing this off the top of my head, is I remember that we added the item per your request to the ops meeting. We had a discussion. We asked the administration, because there was a cost associated with it, what the best plan forward or on stewardship would be around that issue. And as I recall, I don't know if we've gotten a response back yet from the administration or not, but that's what I recall. But I'll defer to you all if you want to add to that. That's my recollection. Is that, yes, ma'am? I think Jacob was there. Am I right, Jacob? Is that right, Jacob? When we were having a discussion,
that is correct, that we discussed that it would either cost associated with it as an additional holiday, or that we would need to look at putting it out for a different holiday already under consideration in place of the other.
So that's where we left it, and I think we might need to just loop back with you and see where we need to go next on it. And I don't know that we've had a conversation with you, Dr. Cruz, around it as well.
I don't recall a conversation coming back to a board ops meeting, but I think that would be something to add if the board so wishes, to add it to our next operations meeting, to have that consideration again, if there's going to be that calendar change for next year, and also recognition in what way. I do think there was part of the discussion as well as how to recognize. There are other questions that came up, but we can come back to the response, but perhaps bring this back up to the next ops meeting.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think I'd want to make clear that I'm not advocating for a day off. At least part of the movement to recognize Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta is to advocate for a day on, a day of service. Our district is a member of the Mexican American School Boards Association, which has a heavy push right now to recognize Chavez and or Huerta and or others in our community. So I guess my question would be, if we're going to return to this as an item of conversation, what it means for this item coming before us this evening. That is to say, if we're being asked to approve this item as it stands with a certain understanding from administration with respect to this issue.
Are as far as adding that to the motion, is that the question?
So as the motion stands, it seems that I am not able to support this insofar as I would be supporting a calendar that does not recognize those models, those heroes. And my understanding that maybe it would be somehow we would be passing this calendar with the understanding that the district will be recognizing persons like this this year and or during the next academic year for which we're approving the calendar.
Okay, and add that to the motion that we actually then do that and plan that as a day for the upcoming school year. Certainly this year as well. And many of our schools do, but it isn't, I wouldn't say that it's consistent across the board as we do with other recognitions.
So Trustee Ellens. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Tyson, then Trustee Wagner.
In the interest of equity, I would love for the board to have a discussion about recognizing people, heroes from the Asian community.
Okay.
Which is a broad community, and it's highly represented in District 3, District 1, District 2, all over the community. We have a board member now from the Asian community, but it's only one part of the Asian community. It's very broad, and yet we only talk about ... So I think that we need to have that discussion also, because there are a lot of Asian heroes, alive and dead, who formed the United States, Texas. So I'm going to put that out for consideration.
Thank you, Trustee Wagner, and then Trustee Letitia Anderson.
I had a question that's more of a practical concern question. Last year when we passed the calendar, I think there was a bit of confusion because the District of Innovation Days were announced after the calendar was passed. So I think some folks in the community started to make holiday visit plans and things like that against this calendar, not realizing that there would be additional changes coming with the District of Innovation calendar, building in additional days off for students. Do you happen to know when that additional portion of the calendar will be available?
We actually have a timeline for our schools and their local CAC. They determine that for their particular campus. What we have had is to have vertical teams come together and say this will be our day, but as just by design, it is campus specific. And so right now we don't have these days in place because schools will go off of what the board approves as far as a calendar and then bring that back to their communities and say, do we want to pursue a District of Innovation Day or not? Mm-hmm. And so at this point, we do not have that, but once this gets approved, then campuses meet with their parents, but then it's got to go through a review of the Campus Advisory Council.
And is there a plan when we release the calendar that we vote on tonight publicly that we would indicate that somehow so folks are aware that those days are still to come?
Absolutely, and we can also include that on the actual item to highlight that there are different days, and by design, those are campus specific. Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Letitia Anderson and then Trustee Emmons.
We are talking about recognizing, and I just want everybody to know, just in case it slipped your mind, this is Black History Month. For me, Black history is every day, and I would ask that the board and the administration recognize not only Black History Month, but you do have a lot of African American employees in this district, and I ask that they be recognized.
Thank you. Trustee Ellens.
Okay. Sorry. So the first thing I would like to possibly connect some dots. This is normally a January regular meeting, so I do expect in February that we will be making some really public announcements in recognition. I know, but we moved it. It was supposed to be January. So I do want to let you know, I do think that that has always been the intention since I've been on the board. But, and with that in mind, that might be my request back to Trustee Matthias is how do we, and you don't see that on the calendar. It's done separate. This is specifically days off kind of calendar. So for me, they're different. And I hear you. I think we should absolutely honor those requests, but how we do it, for me, is not this calendar. So that would be my conversation around that concern. But then I'm going to go into, I was actually going to pull this at one point. I want to thank the administration for getting to us, the board members, the 2020 graduation schedule, because the request at the beginning of this year was to publish the graduation dates along with the calendar that you took out to the public so that the public knew the whole picture. And that didn't happen as I had hoped. However, when we did get the graduation schedule, I'm going to go ahead and tell publicly that graduation, for those of you 4,000 or so seniors out there in 2020, will be taking place between Friday, May 22nd and Thursday, May 28th. And that coincides with the end of school. So this year, this coming year that's coming up, there's a week in between, and that threw a bunch of people off. But this next year, we're back in our normal processes. So once I realized that and realized the communication was not quite as dire, I am willing to pass this calendar as presented. I would ask, though, in the future, I'll ask again, that when the calendar goes to the public for votes, that includes the graduation days on that calendar. Not, I don't need to know which school is graduating on which day, but if they're just marked as the graduation days, so that the public, when they are responding, get the full picture. It's a fabulous opportunity to communicate that information, and we missed it this go around. So let's, in my hope, we will do it better next time.
Yes, Trustee Young. Tysh, sorry.
So I have to add also that one of the most overlooked groups, not recognized a lot except during the powwow in November, which if you've not been to the Native American powwow that we have here in Austin at the Travis County Expo Center usually, you ought to go and you ought to dance with all the tribes that come down. You ought to go and support their textiles because they come all the way up from Mexico, all over the United States. They come to Austin, and these are our Native Americans. And many of us in here have Native American blood. If you are a child of the South, all the way from Virginia, all the way over to California, you have probably got some Native American blood in you somewhere, somehow. And by the way, Trustee Anderson, Letitia Anderson, should we tell the audience that we are blood cousins? We are blood cousins. We are both Hardimans. Check it out.
So, Trustee Matthias, does that clarify your concern, or do we need to?
Well, I appreciate your asking. So, I think before I answer that question, if I could just take a point of personal privilege. Going off of what Trustee Tyke had said about the Asian community, I just want to be able to recognize that at least in our household, we're celebrating today the Chinese New Year. Today, meaning it began at 10 o'clock this morning, but at midnight we'll be celebrating in a special way here in Austin the Chinese New Year. So to all of our families who are celebrating the Chinese New Year in a special way, Happy Year of the Pig. But I appreciate your question. So the question is, I don't know that it's addressed adequately enough for me to vote in favor of a calendar that has a student holiday for one hero and no student holiday for another. And I'm not advocating for student holiday. It's just that I am advocating for forethought and how it is that we create our calendar so that we're appropriately recognizing these persons. So I'm happy to respectfully abstain should the board move forward with this, with the hope that we will have a deeper conversation of how it is that we honor persons and communities in the future.
Yeah, I think we want to add that to the operations meeting, and then And if you're not able to go, maybe we can have a meeting with the superintendent, make sure that we address your concern. So having a motion, a second, around agenda item 9.1, unless there's other discussion. Okay, having a motion and a second, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? All those abstaining? So the motion passes 8-4 and 1 abstaining and 0 against. I'm sorry, 8-0-1. 8-4, 0 against and 1. Yeah, sorry, in favor 4. And then the next is we're going to have the items on the consent for a separate vote, right? Secretary Ellens, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items? I believe it's 12.9, 12.10, and 12.11.
So moved.
Well, actually, the motion is items 12.9, 12.9, 12.10, 12.11. We do then also have another separate vote.
Separate vote.
After this.
Okay, so let's do that one. Is there a second?
Second.
Secretary, Trustee Tice, second. Is there a discussion on either of these items? 12.9, 12.10, 12.11. Okay, hearing none, having a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. I'm sorry. Oh, you did. Sorry. All those in favor, please raise your right hand again. Sorry, I looked over to the right. Sorry, I didn't see it. All those against, and all those abstaining. Okay, so the motion passes 8 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstaining.
Thank you.
Which is Trustee Wagner. Okay. And then Secretary, let's have another motion.
Yes, I move approval of items 14.1 and 14.2.
Second.
Okay, having a second. Is there a discussion on these items? So having a motion, a second, for agenda items 4.1 and 4.2. All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
14.1.
14,
Okay.
yep. 14.1 and 14.2. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those against, all those abstaining. So show 8 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstention.
And who abstained?
Trustee Wagner abstained.
Oh, I could have put them all together. Sorry about that.
Is that it? What? So do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Oh, Trustee Tice.
You know, I am sitting in the preacher's seat over here. First of all, I want to thank my fellow board members. These are very hard-working people, and they work for free, except they do get free food. Just saying. This is our board secretary. Would you please stand up? Yes. Come out here and let people see you. This is the woman who tries to keep all of these marbles together, and it takes a lot of work. She coordinates everything. You should see our calendar. You should see what she has to keep up with. You should see our board matrix. So I want to thank my fellow board members. They are doing an excellent job. I want to note that it's, God, is that clock right? Oh, shoot, of course not. What time is it?
It's 9:08.
That's right now. 9:08. We were supposed to adjourn at 9:35. In about 2 minutes, you're going to get out of here a lot earlier than you normally do. And I want you to be grateful for that and go home. I also want to reiterate what my cousin over there said. And I'm not kidding. She is my cousin. Blood cousin. Distantly related, of course, but you know, it's still blood, right? Still blood. We need to make sure we appreciate and celebrate our African American community. And if you didn't do the Martin Luther King Jr. march or speech or celebrate at HT, you missed a really good time. Great music, wonderful Cajun food, the greatest barbecue I've eaten in a long time, and it's not Franklin's. And if you want to know what it is, come and see me later. I also want to thank all the people who thanked us, all the students, etc. We really appreciate it. I want to thank my fellow Vikings out there in the back for doing such a great job. Go Vikings. But all our students and all our staff are wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, press. We routinely get on you, but we do appreciate you, and we appreciate that we still have a free press here in the United States for the most part. I move that we adjourn this meeting.
So having a motion and a second, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously and the meeting is adjourned at 9:10 p.m. Thank you.